What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's something we haven't done in a while. We're doing a top rope list, and technically speaking, we're throwing a Mount Rushmore in there, so that is something that we do on a more regular basis. But we are talking about wrestlers from the United Kingdom that have been in WWE history, and talking about the best, and how we're going to rank them and everything else that goes along with that. Because upcoming in a couple weeks, we've got the Clash at the Castle pay-per-view. So wanted to talk about something UK-based, and this seemed like as good of a topic as any to talk about since we haven't done something similar to this before. So who are we? If you don't know, well, I am your host as always, Tony Mango. Joining me as always are Callum Wiggins.
All right, governor.
I know Caroline was telling us that we should do accents this entire time. We don't want to be that offensive. Hello. There's Robert De Felice.
Hello.
In it. Maybe we'll throw out some colloquialisms or something. Callum will be our resident UK representative here, of course. So if anything gets too out of hand, we'll have to have you.
He's on my Mount Rushmore of UK podcasters. I'll say that.
That is true.
That's quite an esteemed list.
We figure if we could do a Mount Rushmore of UK Smark Out Moment panelists. We got a couple of them. So yeah, you got your Wego, you know. Maybe we'll do that list. Rank them in the comments below. But by all means, if you have any opinions about this particular top rope list thing, and you know the UK wrestlers and all that, that's what you should be leaving comments about. So tell us what your lists are and whatever other thoughts you've got. While you're over there, hit the like button, hit the share button, pass this around to anybody you think might be interested in checking it out, and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't done that already. Just ring that little notification bell. We are recording this in advance for anybody who needs to necessarily know that information, just in case something happens. You never know. I mean, we went through that thing with the UK scene before where it was just like, here's a bunch of people that are taken off the board for WWE because of allegations and everything. So, I don't know, but it is August 5th. This is probably airing in 2 weeks or so from when we're recording this, so closer towards the mid to end range of August. I haven't quite settled on what day I'm going to post this yet, but you know, if this doesn't age super well, you'll know why. But I think it will be okay, especially considering the names that we're talking about here. We do have plenty of names that we can discuss. I had about like 50-some names that I had written down, and one of the things that came up first when I was going through my list, and I think that you guys probably ran into a similar thing, was I was looking through and I'm like, all right, you know, it's got to be people from the UK. And technically speaking, we could have been like, okay, well, Clash at the Castle is in Cardiff, so we're just going to go with Wales. And hey, we would have had Wade Barrett, Tegan Knox, Mark Andrews, and Flash Morgan Webster, and that would have been it. You know what I mean? But extending it,
fine list.
extending it from Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and England, it means you can't just go full Europe. And we could have technically, I guess, done some kind of European wrestler thing, but then you start getting into like the list gets way too big, and you know, there is an argument that you could be like, okay, well, UK-based wrestlers, are you going to go with people that are wrestled in NXT UK? And then you get like Meiko Satomura, who's not from the UK, but she's the NXT UK Women's Champion. The way that I'm looking at this, they have to be from Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, or England. And then that's it. So that made my list already jump down to... I mean, I didn't write every single person down. There's some people that I was just like, yeah, that person's not going to be in my top 10. So that was like 47 names that I had in the range. And then we got some people that are outside of WWE, because this is technically right now top rope list of WWE UK wrestlers. So we might do some kind of tweaking here and there with that. At least when it comes to the Mount Rushmore, we might just be like, okay, let's open it up past WWE. That's what we're working with here. And if you don't know how the top rope list works, it is slightly different from the Mount Rushmore. It's not just, let's talk about the names and let's settle on that. Instead, what we do is we count down from our number 10 through our number 1. And if we say a name that somebody has maybe about like 3 or 4 spots different, then that person's going to say, okay, well, hold off on talking about that person for a little bit. If we're around the same range, or if the person doesn't have that on their list, then we talk about them. So I'll use that as an example. Somebody who maybe is on people's list, maybe isn't, but I don't, for instance, have Danny Burchell. Danny Burchell. My God, I'm reading two names at the same time. Danny Burch, right next to Paul Burchell. Danny Burch is not on my top 10. Is it on any of yours?
No.
So, for instance, if I were to be like, okay, number 10 is Danny Burch, and then Callum and Rob don't have him, then I'd be like, okay, Danny Burch is blah, blah, blah. This is how I feel like he should be number 10, etc. If, for a random example, Rob would have been like, oh, I have him at like around my number 5, then we would have waited. We'd talk about him when we get to number 5. So that's how this is going to work. And then we're eventually going to, when we get done saying our own individual top 10 lists, then we're going to settle on what the amalgamation of that is. If somebody ranks number 1 on everybody's list, hey, look at that, that's number 1. If somebody's number 2 on most and number 5 on another thing, they might mathematically work out to be number 2. They might work out to be number 1. It's kind of like a complicated thing to explain, but when we start going through, you guys will get it. We've done a couple of these before, so yeah, keep that in mind. So let's just start getting into this. You guys might have this as one of your hold off kind of ones, but my number 10 is Nikki Cross.
Not on mine.
She's not on my list either.
Oh, okay. So Nikki Cross, not necessarily Nikki ASH. To me, in WWE, there are some people who are around that range that I was kind of debating about. Again, that's kind of the whole point of it being number 10. But I typically tend to rank people on this based off of their accomplishments a little bit more than some of the other people. And the one that she just beat out was Layla L for me. You guys happen to have her on your list?
So I was going to ask if anybody had her. I really don't, but she kept coming up everywhere I saw.
I mean, yeah, she is British, so she would have come up.
Is that your nice way of saying she's nowhere near your list?
No, she's not on my list either.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys did the same sort of ranking. I ranked based off of my personal preference and what their accomplishments are, kind of 50-50, as opposed to like the best in-ring workers or anything. Did you guys have like a sort of metric of, yeah, that person's a better in-ring worker, so I'm going to put them higher? Or did you go mostly based off of favoritism, or what did you guys do?
Like, there are some names who are arguably considered more legendary than others, but like, Wade Barrett did more than Dynamite Kid, so he'll be higher for me, But it's mostly like that.
I went totally on personal preference. I don't care if like someone is quote unquote more prestigious or has won more championships. If I like them more, they're going to go higher on the list.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I mean, top rope list is, there's flexibility for these things. So I do have her at my my number 10 spot. I think that she hasn't been able to do as much as she can. Yeah, this Nikki ASH character is not really all that great, but she has won the championship. She's been, I think, a 2-time tag team champion, if I'm remembering correctly. She won the Money in the Bank. And yeah, they were quick reigns and everything, but she is still somebody who I think could give back more. And if they would tap more into her, I could see her potentially bumping up a little bit more on the list. Maybe not necessarily getting fully into the number 9 spot for me, but maybe. So
I'll correct you slightly. She's a 3-time women's champion.
Three?
Tag champion. Yeah, she's twice with Alexa Bliss, once with Rhea Ripley.
Oh, that's right, the Ripley one. I forgot about that. I'm thinking 2-4 with the Alexa one.
Wait, who'd she beat with Ripley? Was that who beat Zelina and Carmella?
I don't know. No, Zelina and Carmella, I think, beat them.
Beat them, so...
They beat Shayna and Nia?
Really?
Maybe?
I don't remember that.
No, I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know they beat someone. It was around about... It was after SummerSlam. Because that was when they fought for the women's title and then they became a tag team.
So I'm looking it up right now.
It's gotta be Shayna and Nia.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Natty and Tamina.
Ah, Right.
That's right, because Natty and Tamina beat Nia and Shayna.
Wow, these titles don't mean anything.
They really don't. Again, that's
Backlash
you know,
around it.
that's a factor though. I mean, she won that title 3 times, but the titles don't mean a whole lot, so it's not like that's going to compare to some of the other people on this list.
Champion. Total times.
Look at that. There you go. Another title that means nothing, but she won it. So yeah, number 10 for me. I'm potentially fine with her not making the top 10 list if, you know, there's other arguments for everybody else and everything. But who do you guys have for your number 10? Who wants to go next?
I have Neville. I feel like everybody else has Neville higher. It's a WWE list, and at the end of the day, I don't feel like he did much. Like, I love Pac, but Neville kind of feels like a wasted talent to me.
I do have him high enough that we should hold off on him.
Yeah, same here. And also, I'm not treating this as a WWE list. I don't care if it's supposed to be or not. I've got people higher up that aren't WWE people.
So, wait, is Big Daddy on your list?
No, Big Daddy's not on my list.
I don't know, for historical purposes. I guess
No.
you did say that you were only taking into account your personal preference.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's going to potentially skew some things since this is just WWE for that thing. But yeah, well, we'll figure it out. Who's your number?
Why is it supposed to? I never came into this brief expecting this was only going to be a WWE thing.
Well, he kept specifying WWE, so I did.
I just think that. You know,
I have two other people that aren't WWE based that I have on the list where I would put them. So, yeah, I'll factor that in.
I just went with the assumption that I know a lot of British wrestlers that are outside WWE, and I think some of the best wrestlers that the UK's ever seen have never wrestled for WWE or very briefly wrestled for WWE. But we'll get around to that when we do.
I'll spoil this idea. I've got two people that aren't in WWE that I would put on the list in the mid range. So we'll come back to them. But what's your number 10, Callum?
Piper Niven.
So she is not on my list.
Yeah, not on mine either.
Viper's an excellent wrestler. I refer to her as Viper because that was when she did her best work in ICW, World Sports, What Culture Pro Wrestling, all these places which I was very familiar with watching her ICW. So she was I think she was the first person to kind of take that title and proclaim it as like a women's world championship at the point in time where WWE was still running around with like Divas Championships and the Knockouts Championships and all that stuff. And I think that her work in WWE, although hampered by the fact that they've been given her stupid name, Doudrop, but her work is exceptional. I think she's one of the best women's wrestlers on the entire roster. And she should have won the UK Championship as Piper Niven, but
definitely
they decided to sidestep all of that. And I think in spite of her name, she's got a degree of legitimacy around her, despite the fact they always have her lose matches, which is just... I'm not saying she should be like a multi-time world champion or anything like that, but she is not treated as seriously as she ought to be for her level of ability. But I think that she's probably my favourite female pro wrestler from the UK. So I wanted to include her on the list.
So snaking back around, my number 9, I think you guys might disagree on the placement. Tyler Bate.
I have my number 8, so...
I'm a bit higher, enough to hold him in place.
Okay. I guess we'll just keep this kind of train going. Rob, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Finlay. I like Finlay.
I have him at 7.
He's not on my list.
Yeah,
so I guess let's just talk about him. Yeah.
I really like Finlay. He came into WWE at a time where he had been working with the women for so long. They just never had him on TV. And when he came in, I think he added a level of aggression at first in his early run. He had really good matches in 06 with Regal and Benoit. And I just really always enjoyed his style. And I enjoyed his run in WWE.
Finlay's a guy that I do have him at number 7, but it's worth talking about him now. It's not too far off. he's a guy that I appreciate more than I necessarily would go to, like, okay, I'm going to go watch this top 10 best matches list. And I rank him a little bit higher based off of his contributions outside of it too. I don't know if that's just kind of skewing it the wrong way, but I know that he is instrumental in the women's division, for instance. And I know that he is somebody who has been a producer for so long and all that. So I'm totally fine with putting him lower on the list than that number 7 spot. But I figured I'd give him that. You don't have him on your list at all, right, Callum?
No, but he was very close. I think that his style is exceptional, and the fact that he's able to put this very like brutish, brawling style and more technical wrestling ability in WWE, I thought was great. And I was a big fan of his run from like the few years that it lasted.
So then, who's your number 9?
Pete Dunne.
Hold off on him.
He's mine. I'll just say this. He's my number 7. That's where we're going next anyway.
Well, there's 8 before that.
Yeah.
Well, I said my number 8 was Bate.
Yeah, technically speaking, yeah. So we'll hold off on Pete Dunne. Loop back around. Your number 8 is Tyler Bate, and we're still going to hold off on him a little bit. But my number 8 is Paige.
Hold off.
Okay.
Not on my list.
Ah, okay.
See, clearly here we're gonna approach this from so many different angles, but she's super high on mine, so we're gonna have to wait on her.
So then, where's that? That puts us at Callum's number 8.
Nigel McGuinness.
Fuck yeah.
See, Nigel is one of those guys that, of course, he's not on my list because I was doing this based off of WWE, but I mean, Nigel, I don't know too much about, to be perfectly honest. Like, I couldn't tell you his best matches necessarily. I couldn't tell you his finisher. I've only seen a few matches. I've liked what I've seen, and I know a lot of major positives from Nigel. I've heard plenty stories about, like, you know, he's just as good, if not better, than this person, that person. And in a non-WWE list, makes perfect sense for me to hear his name.
I think that, yeah, his Ring of Honor is where I'm most familiar with him, outside of obviously Desmond Wolf in TNA, which was a great run to start with that really curtailed off. As soon as he became like, there was that stupid, I don't know if it was a gold rush or something like that, where they had the fans voting for who they wanted to be challenging for the World Championship. And Desmond Wolf was winning every single vote they put out there because everyone loved him from Ring of Honor and they wanted to see him succeed. But they never ever wanted to push him to that level. And even though he had some good feuds with Kurt Angle and AJ Styles and people of that ilk, it never really worked out for him in Impact. And he never got a chance to be in WWE because, as Bryan Danielson said on a recent podcast with Renee Young, that the only reason that he was never signed to WWE is because he was too honest about his injuries, whereas Bryan lied about the number of concussions that he had. So, otherwise, if they had never found out about his injury to his shoulder, which was affecting his performance, he likely would have been in WWE at some point in the mid to late 2000s. But yeah, I think that his work in Ring of Honor, he was up there with the very best. They have had him as world champion for a considerable length of time. The matches that he had with people like Danielson were legendary. Yeah, I think that he was a great talker, just an overall great worker. And I wish he could have done a lot more with his career that he ended up doing. Even though he reached the pinnacle in Ring of Honor, he should have done more on a grander stage.
McGuinness, if I had known what Callum was going to do with this list, would have been top 5 for me. McGuinness is a lot of fun. I think if he would have gotten to WWE when Bryan did, he probably would have led the Nexus. He probably would have been a huge star there, would have had matches with Cena, would have, I think, gone further than Bryan at first because he had more charisma at the time.
And again, like I said, I am not too familiar with him. I only really know him from commentary more than anything else. But, I mean, I get it from that sort of outsider's perspective. So, all right, that means that's your number 8. We got number 777. So that means we're already back around to Callum back again for your number 7.
So I miscounted, and so we probably should have talked about him earlier, but I went with Tyler Bate here. And then, Tyler Bate / Moustache Mountain as a tag team. Because they're as good of a tag team, really, as much as he's obviously the star out of the two, or the more, like, the up-and-coming star out of the two of them. But I don't really want to devalue the efforts of Trent Seven, because he's a great talker. He's a fantastic, like, foundation wrestler, more old school. And I think without him, the whole Tyler Bates character doesn't have that element to him that helps him stand out a bit more. So if I could go with them as a tag team, then I would prioritize that over just Tyler Bate on his own.
I prioritize Bate because I think he did more as a single. Like, he's, what is he, a 2-time NXT UK champion now? And I still think that at some point he's going to be a major player for WWE.
Yeah, I have Bate at 9, as I mentioned before, because I do think that there's a little bit of overratedness in my mind from what I see from him. I think he's fun to watch, but honestly, when I found out that he was winning that championship a second time, I was like, really, just Tyler Bate again? There's a lack of character there for me that really speaks to a negative. When they did introduce a character with his whole like hippie vibe, I didn't like that at all either. And I don't picture him going much further than what he's already gone, but just being one of those guys that can have some good matches. And I'd love to see him against a lot of people. Like, give me like Jungle Boy versus Tyler Bate. Yeah, that's gonna be great. But I couldn't ever picture him being somebody that I would be like, okay, if I'm running things, he's gonna be my world champion. Maybe an Intercontinental.
I was gonna say he wouldn't be my world champion, but he'd be damn sure in the running for the Intercontinental title.
So again, I mean, we got a 7, 8, and 9 for him. He's gonna probably go to around that range. So I'm back around to my number 6, which was mentioned before, with Rob's number 10, Neville / Pac. Should we?
He's my number 5, so we can talk about him now.
Okay, yeah. So Neville, former NXT champion, somebody who is way better as Pac, and that does factor in. Like, it's hard not to have a little bit of that bias when you see that happening. Just kind of like, it's weird to rank Dean Ambrose and not think of Jon Moxley when that's far better. Pac is the current All-Atlantic champion in AEW, which doesn't factor into the WWE list, but it is something that is, it can influence things. I didn't like the Mighty Mouse kind of superhero-y gimmick, but I've always enjoyed his work, and he has one of the coolest finishers, that Black Arrow. Doesn't have the best promos, but he's jacked, and I dug his Cruiserweight Championship run. So he's in that sort of mid-range for me at number 6. And he's number 5 for you, Callum.
Yeah, again, I just think that he's one of the best in the world in the ring, just bell to bell. Like, he's so fluid, he's so dynamic, he's powerful. Like, he's obviously small in stature, but he's absolutely jacked, and he can do so many exciting flips and moves, but also just be a very good technical, grounded, submission-style wrestler as well. I just think if you just put him with anybody in a match, it's going to be good to great. With the right person, it could be, on any given night, the best match you'll see on an entire show. And that extends from his time in NXT, where he was top dog for so long. And then when he comes up to the main roster, it doesn't really work out for him because, of course, like, he's probably, you need to be this high to contend for the world championship, that kind of regime. But when he became Cruiserweight champion, that's arguably been the best work I've seen of his career, even with the AEW stuff, where, like, obviously as Pac, he's fantastic, but I really, really dug that Cruiserweight title run. I thought that he showed a lot more character and personality. His promos I thought were really good. And yeah, but then you can just look at the stuff that he did in like Dragon Gate and other stuff that he's done on the independent circuit prior to joining WWE, and yeah, he's just an absolute marvel of an in-ring performer.
I think a lot of people forget that before AEW became Punk and Danielson and oh shit, Moxley's here on the first show, Pac was like going to be one of their top guys, and arguably still can be. And I think that he is definitely one of the best going today. Again, the only reason I have Neville at number 10 is because I thought we were totally doing a WWE list.
Yeah, so he might get a bump up in that, depending on how we balance things out. But what's your number 6, Rob?
Dynamite Kid.
Not on my list.
Strictly for... I assume he's not on Callum, so I don't know.
No, he's not.
Yeah. Strictly for the influence he had in terms of the wrestling style. Also because there's not a lot of UK wrestlers that received acclaim when he was, doing well in the WWF. So I put him on the list. I think, again, if we were factoring in like the McGinnises and the Ospreays and the Zack Sabre Juniors, he probably would have been bumped off my list, but I did want to at least touch on what he gave the WWF early on.
So then your number 6, Calvin?
Drew McIntyre.
Hold off.
Number 4? Still holding up?
Yep.
Okay.
We're back to my number 5, which was two people that, or one person. No, I'm throwing two people on this list, but you guys already mentioned him before. Pete Dunne, my number 5. I think his UK title reign was great. He's one of the best people to just go out there and have a great match, unless he's put up against somebody like a Drew McIntyre that dwarfs over him and then they make him look stupid. Butch is not a great character, but it's, there's worse characters out there. It just happens to be, it's jarring to see somebody like a Pete Dunne who doesn't have that kind of character be belittled like that, But Pete Dunne is such a solid worker. I loved the whole thing with the Riddle team. That was a lot of fun. Short kind of tag team title reign, but the Broserweights were fun. And I think out of all the people on this list, he's one of the main ones that I would be like, all right, if you're putting him in a match with somebody, I trust it's going to be really good.
Again, we're recording this on August 5th, so if anything changes, sorry. But I still think one of the best pops that Triple H could possibly get is just backstage on a SmackDown walking through, and he just goes, yeah, you're not Butch, you're Pete Dunne, go be Pete Dunne. And the place would blow, and Pete Dunne would be awesome. And he's got the ability to go to the very top, especially now because wrestling's different. He'll get opportunities like a Regal didn't get if he can get to that level and get beyond Butch.
He's still young too, isn't he? Like 25 young. Or something.
Yeah, I believe so, something like that.
Yeah, mid-20s, yeah, still. But yeah, he's everything that you guys said. He's fantastic wrestler, fantastic when he's gotten the right material. He's not a super charismatic in the traditional sense, but he has a charisma about him. Like the broken fingers spots and all these other things are cool. The bitter end is a nice finisher. He is, you had an excellent run as the NXT UK champion. I think if he was treated with an air of legitimacy in WWE, instead of being like a wild child that Sheamus has to childmind, essentially, then he'd be someone that I'd like to see push towards like an Intercontinental or United States Championship position. And I think that despite his small stature, I think he's got enough character and personality that he could potentially fight for world championships down the line. But I think that, the reason why I had him so low down is because at the moment in particular, it just seems like he's hit a ceiling. Under the previous regime of creative control, obviously that has now changed, and so since I put this list together initially. So hopefully there are bigger and brighter things in Pete Dunne's future as Pete Dunne.
Yeah, I mean, this could change literally as soon as tonight's episode of SmackDown when we're recording this. Because remember, this is the 5th of August, so we could get this Friday night SmackDown. They could just be like, all right, Pete Dunne's fighting for, I don't know, a major title or something.
I mean, the likelihood is that he's not going to be called Pete Dunne.
Probably not.
They do decide to change that because that was his indie name. And
even if it's Butch or Pete Butch, or just like give him a name, just give him another name, please.
Butchie Butch. There you go. And so that's my number 5. Callum's number 5 is Neville, and Rob's number 5 is blank right now. What's your number 5?
Wade Barrett.
He is my number 4. So we could talk about him.
He's my 4 as well.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I think I know where Wade Barrett's probably going to get. He's in that 4 and 5 range.
I think that Wade Barrett should have been the first world champion from the region. I think it's fucking ridiculous that he didn't win the world title. I think we can all laugh at it now, but you can't look at the summer of 2010 and not think, okay, Wade Barrett wins the title, loses to Cena at Mania. This is before you know that The Rock is going to host and all that shit. Like, Wade Barrett and the Nexus should have been a major part of that WrestleMania. The N in that WrestleMania logo should have been the Nexus logo. Like,
right.
The reason they failed is because they were the start of, well, all you have is FCW, get the hell out of our face, and we're going to bury you. And I think it's wrong, and I think Barrett tried tremendously to reinvent himself. The Bad News Barrett, the bare knuckle fighter. I think the Bullhammer is one of the coolest finishers ever. Had a cooler name as a souvenir.
Fully agreed.
Barrett's good, man.
Yeah, I really wish that he not only would have had some title feud thing going on with John Cena, but I think he should have fought Undertaker at WrestleMania too. He should have been one of those people. Sheamus should have been another one that should have fought Taker at WrestleMania, but that's, he's not from the UK list that we're talking about. But Barrett, the fact that he was able to be the standout guy in NXT before NXT was NXT, when it was still the whole like competition thing, he wins that, and all he really gets out of it is he leads the group of the losers, and they still managed to make it work. But the way to really put a stamp on it would have been for him to be the champion. He won the Intercontinental title a couple times. That's, major accolade that a lot of people don't get a chance to do. But
I think he won it like 5 times, didn't he?
He won it quite a bit. Yeah. It might only be 4, but I'm pretty sure he won it at least 3. And how many of them are really necessarily memorable? Not much. But we're in an era where they just passed that title around and it didn't really mean anything anyway. It was Ezekiel Jackson wins this, and then this guy wins this. Dolph Ziggler wins it for the 4th time or something. So that's not necessarily his fault. That was their booking. Just the same as you can't really be like, oh, Shinsuke won the titles and he didn't do anything with them. That's because they just fucking forget about him. And Barrett really got the shaft here. I think not only should he have been in a bigger deal with the Nexus, but when he looped back around with the Bad News Barrett thing and that caught on, why the hell did they give him some better run with that? Maybe not a world championship under Bad News Barrett, but he could have been a bigger deal, That was so fun. And I love him on commentary now. He's one of my favorite commentators.
Yeah, he was a very charismatic, great talker. I thought that as soon as he started growing the beard out, he had a fantastic look about him as well. I think like the Wade Barrett that won NXT and was part of the Nexus, because he was clean shaven, had a bit of a punchable face look about him. Whereas when he grew the beard in, it's like, oh my god, it's like Jared Butler as a wrestler.
Yeah,
and I think he really should have been a world champion as Bad News Barrett. I would have the Nexus, even though that would have made a bigger splash at the time. I think he was just more established and would have been treated with more legitimacy if he'd have won it as Bad News Barrett. But those segments were always great. I'd say the souvenir or the ball hammer was a great finisher. Carrying Cross ruined it because his one just isn't as good, and it was a damn sight better than the Wasteland.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
An even shittier attitude adjustment. But yeah, I think that he definitely should have been a lot more in WWE. But what we saw in WWE was always highly entertaining, and he's also entertaining in his capacity as a commentator. So yeah, I'm happy to have his voice back on television more often.
It seems like he's having fun with commentary too, and that's always good. You know, you get people that come in and they just kind of do the job, but he seems like he's genuinely enjoying being in NXT.
A lot of people, especially since, the King stopped doing the heel shtick, a lot of people just do really bad Bobby Heenan or Jerry Lawler impressions. Barrett kind of has a uniqueness to it, and he gels very well with Vic Joseph. I think they're the best commentary pairing going right now.
I think McAfee and Cole give him a run for their money, but I do like him. I like him better than the Raw team. That's for sure.
The Raw team kind of sucks.
So then that's the Barretts, but Rob's still got a blank number 4.
My number 4 is Drew McIntyre.
So I have him at number 3. So we might as well talk about him.
What does count that as?
Number 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's great. He got to do the things that Barrett should have done, and a few of the names that I'm going to say above him should have done. If you draw what a wrestler should be, he looks like Drew McIntyre. He's upped his offense. Now he does high impact moves like the Claymore, and he can do swan dives over the ropes. McIntyre is maybe the best wrestler sports entertainer hybrid in WWE today. But I still feel like the wasted years of 3MB hurt him a little bit.
You know what I'm going to do? I don't know why I didn't bother thinking about this ahead of time. For the people that are on YouTube, I'm going to do the screen share. I should have just had this list up for everybody because at least they could look at that instead of just the top rope list graphic. Sorry about that, everybody. You can kind of follow along a little bit easier. Drew McIntyre, yeah, he is somebody who he's got the look. He can cut a better promo than a lot of the other people that are on this list. He's not, the best person on the mic ever. He's not pulling a Rock or a Ric Flair or anything, but he's still able to hold his own. I don't put him in that high, S tier range for match quality, but he holds down and he does have his good matches and everything. It's not that he's bad by any means. He's one of those very reliable, just a WWE type performer. And when he's up against the right person, he can have a fantastic match. If he's up against the wrong person, things can go wrong, but that's the same with everybody, pretty much. And he gets a lot of points for me for being that first champion.
Yeah, of course. It was a great moment to see a Brit win the WWE Championship after we seemingly had waited for years and years for people that we felt were within touching distance of that accolade and never actually getting there. The shame is that it had to be a guy from Scotland, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Drew has the size, he has the build, he's just an awe-striking person to look at, and then he follows it up with just the great ability in the ring. Again, the reason why he was lower down on me is because I struggle to name a lot of Drew McIntyre matches that I would ever go back and rewatch after the first time. Like at the time, he does a lot of really good solid work, like his matches with Sheamus, his matches with Bobby Lashley, a few of the matches he had with Randy Orton in his title reign, like they were all really good solid matches, and throughout his reign as WWE champion, he had really good solid matches. Unfortunately, most of them in front of TV monitors. But I think that my opinion of him may shoot up after Clash of the Castle because I don't think that there is a it's a very empty possibility that he'll beat Roman Reigns for the title in front of a home crowd.
I think, and much like you've said on recent podcasts about, just have Street Profits beat the Usos and they can always win it back. Roman Reigns can always win the title back. I think Drew McIntyre should absolutely beat Roman Reigns at Clash at the Castle. He deserves that after you gave him a title win in front of no one. He deserves to beat Roman Reigns, and I hope he does.
I think there's absolutely no chance whatsoever that he beats Roman, but, I guess we'll get to that in probably a week from when we're posting this. Yeah. But Drew's great. And Drew, for a little bit of time there, I wasn't a big fan of him when they were doing the Chosen One gimmick. And I'm like, really, this guy? I don't see it. And then he went away. He comes back and he's infinitely better.
Yeah, he's the guy that took the boot from WWE and decided to really work at it, become pretty much undeniable in terms of just his look and his presence and his in-ring ability. And also growing the beard. Growing the beard does help. Like it works for Barrett, it works for McIntyre as well. And yeah, he's now a superstar in their eyes, and rightly so.
He's a guy who, you guys make a great point. He's like the blueprint for what Cody Rhodes ends up doing, and all the other people who leave WWE under whatever circumstance and say, I'm gonna go and kill it on the indies. Drew McIntyre proved that was a real route back and into the main event of WrestleMania, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that as well.
So he's my number 3. Rob, what's your number 3?
Paige, yeah.
Wow, you have it really high.
Yeah. Well, again, talking about WWE, she's like the first NXT champion for the women. She's a huge impact on the women's evolution. I think that you got to give this woman her flowers because realistically, she opens the door, she kicks it in, and everybody else is just like, meh, like for real though, like Paige comes in, gets it all started, and then because of injury, she's not a part of any of it. She's not a part of any of the evolution stuff, and I think that sucks. And I think she should be given her flowers because she was kicking ass at a time where it was like, oh my God, did you see Paige and Emma did a superplex? What a great match. And she really helped expand what the women could do.
She is somebody who fate fucked her over in a lot of different ways. If she would have had, a better run with not only getting injured, but all the other kind of problems that happened afterward and all that, she probably would have won that title many, many more times. She probably still would be winning the championship, and she'd be one of those multi-time fighting for the title at WrestleMania types, and would have had great feuds with the 4 Horsewomen and with, Rhea and Bianca and all these great people that have come and gone. Toni Storm, she would have had a good thing with her. I don't rank her as high as you, but I can be persuaded. And she's not on your list at all, right, Callum?
No, and it's not a case of her being unworthy. She would definitely be, if it was extended out to like 15 or so, she'd definitely be on that list. Because she was a very good worker. Again, it boils down to the fact that I don't recall many super memorable matches beyond that. The one that stands out is that arrival match with Emma. But other than that, I don't really pinpoint too many like great matches. But she was always a solid, reliable worker. And she probably would have had a lot more great matches if injury hadn't struck her in the way that it did.
So you're number 3, Callum.
William Regal.
Yeah, that's my number 1.
That's my number 1.
Okay, we can wait on him then.
So what's funny about that is now that you kind of bring him in there, let me copy and paste that over for anybody that's interested in that. I think that means I might know your 2 top one's Callum, and I think that Rob and I might have number 2 the same.
That means that we probably do.
Davey Boy Smith, British Bulldog.
That is correct.
Is he in that? I don't think he is for Callum. I'm going to say Callum's number 2
is
Zack
Sabre and Will Ospreay. Right?
Will Ospreay, and number 1, Zack Sabre Jr.
Other way around.
So wait,
Will
which is
Ospreay's
which?
number 1, Zack Sabre Jr. is number 2.
I would put Ospreay number 1 over Sabre as well.
So then Zack spelled with a K or an H?
Okay.
Okay, I thought so. I was like, wait a minute. As soon as I typed it out, I'm like, this doesn't necessarily look right. Yeah, so Zack Sabre Jr. and Will Ospreay, to talk about them before we talk about British Bulldog, those were the 2 that I was like, all right, if I'm expanding this past WWE, I know they go on there. From what I've seen of them, I haven't seen much, but from what I've seen of them, of course they go at least to that mid-range, you know? So I would have put them probably, personally, I would have put them lower than Wade Barrett. I would have had them number 5, number 6, maybe. But I don't know if I could like just between the 2, I think I've enjoyed Zack Sabre Jr. maybe a tiny bit more than Will Ospreay, but it's about 50-50. I mean, it's hard to tell, especially since I haven't seen too much. But if you were to put them on your list somewhere, Rob, where do you think you would put them?
Ospreay would probably be like number 4, Sabre number 5.
I'm gonna just put that in there for reference in case we end up just doing that. I guess we'll come back around to British Bulldog. What's your thought process between Ospreay and Sabre in the ranking, Callum?
We'll start with Sabre at number 2. I think Sabre is the greatest technical wrestler that I've seen in the basically level pegging with Bryan Danielson. I think, and Kurt Angle actually in that level as well. I think hasn't have the size or the dynamic strength of Kurt Angle. It's hard to match up to him. I think Kurt Angle's the greatest wrestler that ever lived. So he can't just hit that level, but I feel that he does so much cool stuff in the ring. His transitions, his submissions, his pin combinations. He's obviously not a heavy striker, and he has a bit of a frail frame, but he uses that to his advantage by wrapping his entire body around people. And basically, he's got, okay, you got him in a heel hook. Oh, they're trying to get that leg to that rope. I'm going to grab the other leg and tie that one up as well. Oh, they're trying to reach with their arm now. I'm going to grab his arm in then and pull that in. He has so many great matches against so many unique people, and he always manages to fit within their style. He's a very chameleon-like wrestler where he'll have his match and he'll do all his cool submissions, but he won't interfere with the match the other guy is trying to have as well. And I've seen him have great matches with Okada and Tanahashi and Ospreay and virtually anyone in New Japan up against. And he's treated well in New Japan and Rev Pro as well. He's a multiple-time British heavyweight champion. He's won the New Japan Cup multiple times. He usually finishes quite prominently in G1 finals as well. He's never won the world title yet, but he's had plenty of opportunities. I think he'll hopefully be more considered in like the Intercontinental title level. To be fair, the Intercontinental title doesn't exist anymore in New Japan, which is a mistake, which they should eradicate, but never mind. But he is multi-time tag team champion as well. He's everything outside of the world title in New Japan, and that's a very exclusive club to try and join. But I don't think he's completely going to be outside that. I think that he has a very strong possibility of winning it one day because they do protect him and he does have excellent matches. And yeah, I just think that he's a real, like, once you watch him for an extended period of time, you just get into all of his matches, the different ways that he'll just twist people into a pretzel. Just like love the way that he works. And Will Ospreay, the reason why he's number 1 is because I think that Will Ospreay is the greatest wrestler working today. And he used to be considered just like one of these flippy guys, and really what he was, just a guy that would go in with Ricochet and they would bounce around the ropes for 20 minutes and do some cool gymnastic spots, and that would be kind of it. But he's leveled up his game so much. He's became a heavyweight in New Japan. He's more physical. He still does all his absolutely phenomenal high-flying stuff, like the Spaceline Tiger Drop and the Ox Cutter and all these other cool moves that he does. But then he ties that with things like the Hidden Blade, which is just like essentially a ball hammer to the back of the head going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And that's super cool, and it looks absolutely vicious every time he hits it. And then you have like the Stormbreaker. That's just an excellent, like, it's almost like it's essentially just a fancy looking neck breaker, but it looks so good that I'm willing to look past that point. But yeah, and he is one of the guys that has broken through and become the IWGP champion. So he is a top guy in New Japan. He's one of the absolute top workers there. And I think that he just has so many great matches with so many wrestlers constantly, and he does it on everywhere that he goes as well. Like, you saw it with Orange Cassidy, someone who does have good matches, but that's probably the best match that I've ever seen Orange Cassidy have. It's that and the match that he had with Pac a few years ago. But then you see him have matches with Okada, Tanahashi, and pretty much all of New Japan's top guys he's had great matches with. Shiga Takagi in particular, his matches with Takagi are some of the best that I've ever seen in New Japan. And he's currently the US champion. He's won pretty much every title belt he can win. He progressed from being the top guy in the junior division to being the top guy in the heavyweight division, which very few people do. And yeah, I just think that right now there's nobody better like bell to bell than Will Ospreay.
So we don't have them on our list because we were doing the WWE thing, but we do have British Bulldog, who is not at all on Callum's list.
No.
And number 2 for both Rob and I. Davey Boy Smith, I'll admit, he gets that number 2 spot for me largely based off of nostalgia. Because, I mean, British Bulldogs during that new generation type era where I was becoming a fan and, you know, rewatching old tapes and everything and going back and checking out things like the 92 SummerSlam, but also watching his runs with Owen Hart and, you know, his matches with Shawn Michaels and everything. It's all sentimental, and he is a former Intercontinental Champion, the European Champion, Tag Team Champion. He didn't win the world title. I think if there would have been 2 world titles at the time, he definitely would have won one of them. He's one of those guys that I bring up all the time. You know, Razor Ramon would have won a title, Roddy Piper, Teddy DiBiase, etc., Mr. Perfect. Bulldog is a guy that he leaves a legacy behind, and unfortunately passed away way too soon, just in that era of people that are like, man, they didn't even make it to their, you know, their 50s or anything. And I think you're probably in the same sort of boat that I am, Rob, about that, right? Like,
yeah,
a little bit the sentimental pick more than necessarily like, okay, for him versus McIntyre, you know, technically speaking, McIntyre did accomplish more already, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's also, he was literally flying the flag for the UK in the WWE for so long that how can you not put him damn near the top of this list? And he was very good, and I think some of that is slept on now because the style has changed so much. But Davey Boy was one of the better wrestlers. He was one of the only guys you could have put in there with a guy like Shawn or Brett and said, okay, go have a match and tear it down. And literally, there's so much in the build to Clash at the Castle in the surrounding area that's just sort of like, and remember, you know, Bulldog and Brett main evented 30 years ago and how big of a moment that was for UK fans. So I think a lot of it's that for me, but also he was legitimately great at what he did.
So here's our conundrum. And I might need to just sort of maybe move these over a little bit and do like a combo list and a non-WWE combo list or something. Because, I mean, we've got the space for it. We can't just be like, oh, yeah, you know, I don't have the Wikipedia thing. If we do a combo list that's just the WWE thing, and then we do one that factors in Ospreay and Sabre Jr. and all that, I think that might be the best way of doing it. And it's not going to take that much longer to do. Number 1 seems to be mathematically for me on the WWE list. Let me just write WWE. It seems like it's pretty much William Regal. Because it would be my number 1, Rob's number 1, and Callum's number 3. But if you would have taken Ospreay and Sabre off, he would have probably bumped him up to number 1, right?
Well, yeah, he'd be number 1 if I didn't have Ospreay and Sabre.
All right, so then we're going to go William Regal in that number 1 spot. Number 2.
I mean, but I know we're trying to get this. Do we not want to actually talk about William Regal before that?
Oh, God, did we actually? We didn't. That's right. We held off on him.
You're jumping around so much that we didn't talk about Regal.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, well, now's the best time to talk about it then. I mean, William Regal, number one, and effectively number 1. He never won the world championship, but god damn, he should have. And literally the only reason he didn't is because of all the backstage stuff that happened, which he's talked about, way better than we could do justice right now. But he was going to win that in like 3 different occasions. That whole King of the Ring general manager thing was really going to lead to that. And it might not have been the best reign in the world. He wasn't at his peak right then, but Regal is so instrumental to this business. And he is somebody who's withstood so many stupid gimmicks, but made a lot of them super fun. So he not only was fun and funny, but he was great to watch in the ring. Hell of a promo. Carries himself with this sort of, that guy's going to make you tap out kind of authority. Can't say enough good things about Regal like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe best to never win the title, you can argue from an in-ring perspective. Regal now is just getting his flowers, and I think it's fantastic. Everybody's opening up about how great he is and what he's done for NXT, what he did for like a generation of guys, what he's done for Danielson alone, gave us a WrestleMania moment in a way. Like, William Regal is just someone who understands, appreciates, and loves the wrestling industry and takes it to heart while also not taking it seriously at all. And I think he's mastered that art so well. And yeah, I just think he's the best.
Yeah, Regal is pure entertainment, both from a just bell to bell. If you like the technical wrestling and the hard-hitting stuff, he can deliver that in absolute spades. But then if you like the comedy and the gimmicks and all that stuff, then he's right up your street as well. He's just so unbelievably funny. And he's not overbearingly funny. He's naturally got that humour about him in the same way that he kind of likens himself to a lot of the classic British comedians of the age as well. And yeah, but he mixed that up with a very hard-hitting, gritty wrestling style, which you kind of see, and especially with his work in WCW, the matches that he would have with Finlay as well, in particular, were just so unbelievably brutal and aggressive. And yeah, excellent promo, excellent overall character. He can switch between being just an absolutely villainous heel and actually just a likable character, oddly enough, despite being the gentleman villain. But he's got that. You look at that 2 promos immediately stick to mind. It's the one where he calls out Triple H to defending Eugene of all people, and he basically talks to Triple H in the way that they're both heels, but he's being on the side of good. But he recognizes the fact that there's a lot of similarities between 2 of them, and they're tag team partners back in WCW as well, so that makes a lot of sense. And then it's his final promo as an in-ring performer before that match with Cesaro in NXT, which it's just the perfect curtain call on his entire career and really sums up his legacy really well. But his legacy is continuing with the Blackpool Combat Club, and he's doing some fantastic work supporting the efforts of Moxley and Danielson and Claudio and Wheeler Yuta in particular. I think he's going to be a big influence on Yuta's career, and I think eventually he's going to be a big influence on Daniel Garcia's career as well. But I think, he is definitely worthy of a number 1 spot on any list of British wrestlers.
So number 2 is where things get a little bit confusing because you got 2 people for British Bulldog, not on Callum's list at all. But if you factor out Ospreay, Sabre, and even McGuinness, and you were to put Bulldog on there, he'd be in that like closer to number 10 something range.
Well, I'll say this: if I was to take the 3 people that are completely non-WWE related, Ospreay, Sabre, and Nigel McGuinness, Bulldog would still not be in my top 10.
Yeah, so I mean that's going to hurt Bulldog, but he is still on 2 lists, so that is going to factor.
Do you want to give you my top 10 if it doesn't include?
Yeah, let's
sure,
put that off on the side.
Because I do have that. So it would start with Regal, Barrett would be 2nd, Pac would be 3rd, McIntyre 4th, Tyler Bate.
Wait,
Pete
let me write these down. So it's Regal, Barrett, Pac, McIntyre.
Bate / Mustache Mountain, whatever you want to do, but Bate, I guess. Then Pete Dunne. Then
Dunne
Piper
would be
Niven.
number 6, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Piper Niven would be 7.
Niven 7. Yep.
Then it'd be Nikki Cross.
Okay.
8. Finlay at 9.
And number 10.
And 10 Paige.
Okay, so that'll be good to like kind of factor that in there. So if that were the case, I think it's between Drew and Barrett for number 2 then, because even if it wouldn't be the Bulldog being number 2 spot, you kind of do a little bit of the math and it balances out a little bit differently.
I think maybe McIntyre, because I had him high up and you had him real high up.
I had McIntyre number 3. Yeah, you had him at number 4. I had Barrett at 4. You had okay. So it probably would be McIntyre and then Barrett. I think that mathematically works out. And then we would start getting into it's Pac versus Bulldog, because Pac would be. Actually, I don't have. You guys don't see this list. Let me share my screen for you guys, because you guys aren't watching this live the way that other people are. How do I get this on there? Nope, that's the share screen. That'll be easier. Yeah, you guys can see it, right?
Yep.
All right, so this is what we're working with. We got Regal, McIntyre, Barrett. This is pretty much British Bulldog or Neville. And then whoever the other one would be. And then it's looking like it could be Pete Dunne, I think. Yeah, I think it probably would, because we got number 5, number 7, number 9, but then bumped up to number 6. So I think that makes the most sense. And then Tyler Bate? Or would that be... Yeah, it'd be Dunne, Bate, Finlay?
Paige would probably be next, I'd say.
Oh, that's right, because Paige is higher up on Rob.
Yeah,
so Bate, Dunne, Paige. At least those 3 are somewhere around there. And then I think we're down to... Who would be the other factors? Nikki? Why do I have Nikki ASH written down? That's stupid. She's Nikki Cross.
Well, Finlay's on all 3 of our lists.
Oh, Finlay, yeah.
WWE one, so yeah, Finlay would be.
So that'd be Finlay, and then it would probably be Nikki.
Yeah, it's.
Oh no, we got 2 Nikkis. Yeah, two Nikkis and a Dynamite kid that doesn't get in there, and
Piper Niven.
The Piper Niven, that's only the one. So yeah, that'd be the difference. You with the Nikki on there, so the Nikki would be number 10. And then effectively, I guess like Niven would probably be number 11, but we're not really factoring them in there. So then about these, to go back to these, this was British Bulldog and Neville. Neville's number 6, number 10, 5, and he'd be going up to that. All right, so Neville gets higher ranked than Bulldog, I think, probably, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Neville Pack, then British Bulldog for being 2 number 2s, and that and not on the other one. Bate, Dunne, and Paige. Paige is 10, 8, and 3. Oh, that's tough.
It's definitely.
I'd say Paige. I'd say Paige, Dunne, Bate.
I was leaning a little bit towards Paige. Paige, Bate. Not Paige, Dunne, Bate.
It's definitely mathematically it's Dunne, Paige, Bate.
Dunne, Paige, Bate. That makes sense to me too.
Because Dunne's got Dunne is 5, 7, and 6 on these ones, so he's basically 6th anyway, and that would correlate with.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because it's not too far off from Paige's highest mark versus the other thing. All right, so then that's our. This is our bronze, silver, and gold medal for that. If we extend it to the non-WWE list, when we start factoring in where we place these, still get number Regal 1. Number Regal 1. Number 1 is William Regal. Ospreay's in there. Barrett, and Barrett. Versus Ospreay. I mean, I'd be fine with moving these two around between them, just to kind of make that easier too, because they're about 50-50 for me. But I'd put Wade Barrett above them still. All right, so we're somewhere in this Ospreay, Sabre, McIntyre, and Barrett thing for these 4 spots. That's for sure. Then we start getting into, I think, probably we're back to just carrying her on that list, right?
Yeah, because they're the main 2 in there. So
then we would just kind of push that all down.
Well, I imagine if Rob had the opportunity, he'd put McGuinness on the list somewhere.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Where would you think? Would you put McGuinness on there, or would you?
Oh, McGuinness would definitely be on my list. He'd be probably around the 6, the 7 or 6-ish range.
All right. So then McGuinness definitely bumps somebody. He wouldn't be on my list, but I mean, he's going to bump off at least like.
He'd put Nikki probably then.
Well, she would be technically.
Yeah.
She'd be
She's not on the list.
Yeah. It would be.
Probably would knock out Bate, I'd imagine then, or maybe not, because really Bate's on all of our lists. So and Bate's higher on mine for.
Maybe he just knocks off. Does he just knock off Bulldog?
Well, it would be 2 versus 2.
He just wouldn't be. He just wouldn't be on the. He wouldn't be on the main non-WWE list.
So if we were to do that, it would be Neville would be on all 3. So he definitely goes in there. Bulldog would be in 2.
It's that list. It's those 4 and then those ones at the bottom. So that's what it would look like.
Oh, he's right.
Yeah, it would just be those 4 in whatever order we're going to put them in: Ospreay, Sabre, McIntyre, and Barrett in the top, from 2 to 5, and then the other bottom 5 would be just the way that it is now.
Well, because Bulldog's on 2, Nigel's on 2. It'd be only fair to have Nigel in there somewhere, but it's not the same. There you go.
but in which case, one of those 2 would have to go off because Pete, Dunne, Paige. Well, Paige actually technically wouldn't be on both of our, would not be on my list now.
Paige would be only a 2. Bulldog would be a 2. Nigel would be a 2. Bate would end up moving up because he would end up being a 3. Finlay's a 2. So we got a 2, a 2. I feel like I'm the fucking owl from how many licks does it take to get to Tootsie Pop Center? We got a 2, a 2, a 3. So these would be the 3s. So they would mathematically rank higher than the 2s. And then it would probably be something around that.
Well, in which case, I would argue, why is British Bulldog number 5 on the WWE list when he's not on my list at all?
Oh yeah, I guess. Well, if we have to factor in the number 2 spots for that, then, because if we had like 3 number 10s, that wouldn't rank necessarily higher than the number 2s, but maybe these don't necessarily go quite there. We're somewhere in this range with these. We got these 5 spots to fill. These are the twos. We got Finlay's 2, right? Yeah, Finlay's just a 2. But Finlay ranks lower than Paige, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because Paige got a high one there.
Yeah, so at the very least, we know Finlay taken off the list. We know that Nigel... Yeah, Nigel ranks higher than Paige. And Bulldog ranks higher than either of those. So this would be the order of the 2s. This is the order of the 3s. And then it's just a matter of sorting out the weight, the weight of that. So Neville's got 5, 6, and 10. Actually, that would change this to that.
Oh yeah.
And then,
well, I'd shift Neville above Dynamite. Like the whole thing would change because Dynamite probably just wouldn't make the cut.
So then
Neville would be
just bump that up, and then so he still wouldn't make your top 10 though.
No,
that would be your.
I said I would.
Well, he'd move Neville up because he's Pac now.
Yeah.
I thought you just meant that you would shift him up, like at all.
I would. Yeah.
So you'd bump him up.
I put Neville where Dynamite was.
There you go. All right. So then this is actually what we're working with. That might change things. Let's for anybody that's like, oh, I love spreadsheets. This is a podcast of spreadsheets. These past a little bit. So then this does change some things potentially. So Ospreay, we have to figure that all out, but we can sort that out. We know that they're on the top, the 2, 3, 4, 5. For this though, so then Tyler Bate's taken off 2 lists. Pete Dunne goes number 10, number 7, and 9. Neville goes 9, 8, 5. So Neville goes above Dunne. That makes sense. And then it's the 2s. Depending on how.
That's it, isn't it?
That's the tough thing about it is Bulldog's high at number 2. McGinnis is around the same range as Dunne. I think I would put, based off of the 2s and all that, I think I would go probably maybe this. Let's see what you guys think. And then Paige. I think that might work. I don't know if that weighted number kind of thing. I don't have like a specific, okay, this is worth this many points. But you figure you got Bulldog is number 2 spots for 2. So that is pretty high. Even though he's not on that list, Nigel is definitely lower than what Bulldog is. So he's got to be on the lower part. But Neville ranking above and in that kind of range, if we're looking at all that, I think he probably goes above Nigel.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And then Nigel being a little bit above the Pete Dunne. Where's Dunne on this? Pete Dunne's there. I think I'd probably go willing for Nigel to be that up. But then again, I could be persuaded that Dunne goes above Nigel.
I mean, you're the only one that would really persuade that because Nigel's not on your list and Dunne is, whereas we both got Nigel ranked higher than
Nigel goes above Dunne.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, if you guys have him on the list, I'd be cool with him being above Dunne. But if you guys would be willing to put Dunne over, I'd put Dunne over.
Nah, I'll keep it the way that
I would like to watch that match and see who goes over.
That's true. So then we got the Ospreays, and we got the Drew McIntyres, and the Wade Barretts. Okay. Look what we're working with here. Ospreay there. Zack Sabre Jr. So Zack Sabre Jr. is definitely ranking lower than Ospreay.
Yeah.
McIntyre. Ooh, this is all over the place. I think it might be Ospreay. Then Barrett. Sabre, McIntyre.
I want to do some proper maths on this. Just need to give me a second. So,
because Ospreay's got 1, 4, and 5.
Yeah,
you figure he definitely can't be in the bottom 2 with that. Or I would assume he can't be in the bottom 2 because at least Zack Sabre Jr. is lower. We know definitely Ospreay's above Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay. Yeah. Hang on, let me just actually calculating which one has the lowest numbers out of these, so I can actually like properly do it.
And Barrett being on the lower end, number 8, 4, 4, and 8. I think that kind of balanced out to number 6 or so. So Barrett might be the lowest for that.
Let me just get McIntyre's numbers. That's 3, add 7, add 6. Okay, so the numbers make it out. So it would be Ospreay, then Sabre Jr., and then McIntyre and Barrett have the same score.
And McIntyre's got a higher, and Barrett's got a lower.
Yeah, so it would be McIntyre and then Barrett.
So Drew McIntyre there, Wade Barrett there, Will Ospreay there, and Zack Sabre Jr. there. Yep. I think that makes sense. And then I messed up my whole list thing going on here, so I'm going to have to somehow keep this off on the side. And where was your original list again, Rob, before I messed this all up? You had...
Oh, wait.
So it would be...
Hold on 1 second. I had Neville.
You didn't have Ospreay and all that, so you'd bump up these.
Right.
And then where was Dynamite Kid?
His Neville was
and then Dynamite
10.
was 6.
Yeah, Dynamite was 6.
And Neville was 10?
Yeah.
There you go. That's right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll add that to the wiki page, and people will be able to go, oh, okay, that's a quick glance. I don't get the wrong things on here. Now, technically speaking, we are quote unquote done when it comes to that. We could just call this a day, but with these top rope lists in the past, we've already talked about all these names. Are we really going to do another whole episode down the line of Mount Rushmore of UK wrestlers and just do the same podcast? Probably not. We could expand it to the UK.
No, we're going
Plus,
to do European so we can talk about Becky Lynch and shit.
Right. We could eventually do the best European or, along those lines. But we might as well basically talk about the Mount Rushmore. Because we've got a ranking going on. We know roughly who we are in the range for. We could do multiple Mount Rushmores. We've done that before. And I think that that's kind of one of those things that maybe it's worth doing, like the men's list, the women's list, the all-around list, whatever. We don't need to be crazy. We don't need to be like the Mount Rushmore of UK tag team things or something. Mustache Mountain, Grizzled Young Veterans, etc. We could if you guys want to spit it out real quick, but I'm thinking if we were to be doing like a little bit of a crazy kind of thing going on here, Mount Rushmore of women. Seems like we're going Paige. Ooh, this is typing out weird. I'm just gonna copy and paste this so that I don't get some weird stuff going on with the text.
That's everybody's Mount Rushmore. William Regal.
William Regal, all on the women's side too. It seems like based off of this, Paige, Nikki Cross, Piper Niven,
Piper,
and then is there a fourth one that you guys think?
Well, I have some of the women listed from the UK, like a wider list. So there's Layla.
I had like this sort of thing going on that I was just like a working sheet for some things.
Yeah. So there's Layla. There's Kaylee Ray.
Yeah.
There's Priestley, Kaylee Virtual, and Tegan Knox. For the other ones that I had listed and Jamie Hayter on the women's side of things.
Let me tell you, looking at that list of names, I can tell you it's Kaylee Ray for me, bud.
Oh yeah, it's 100% Kaylee Ray.
And it'd be hard to make an argument against that. Looking at this list of some of these other people, just the names that I wrote down before I stopped writing down names that we didn't talk about. Like, I don't think we're really going to have much of a discussion about like, oh, Eva Valkyrie deserves to be on this, or on the men's side, Flash Morgan Webster, we got Isla Dawn, Kenny Williams, Pretty Deadly, et cetera, et cetera. you guys can see the list on here, but like if there are any names that are on this that you think are worth necessarily discussing. I mean, I'm not going to make an argument for Nia Brookside
seems much ado about nothing.
Right.
Lily McKenzie's good. That's about all I would say in the women's department.
If we're doing a Mount Rushmore of people with like the body hair and everything like that, then we got to go Wild Boar and Primate and all that.
And speaking of body hair, if you want to trim yours,
then that is a great time to talk about our sponsors, Manscaped. You know how it goes by now. If you don't, and you are somebody like Primate or Wild Boar or anything, then you should be picking up some of the products that you see on your screen. Manscaped.com. And if you use that promo code SMARK, you get 20% off and free shipping. Lots of different things that are fantastic. My wife, of course, loving the deodorant, stealing that from me as often as she can. She actually is running over here right now.
Literally just stole it.
She just did. Yeah. So, she's got the 2 thumbs up of approval when it comes to that. And she is looking beautiful in the dress that she is trying on right now. Love her to death. One of the reasons why I'm able to keep her is because I smell nice with all these things on Manscaped. So, keep that in mind. If you're looking for a lovely lady out there, look at that. Save your balls in the process. Get the trimmer and everything. You don't want to show up to a date and have some kind of problems with that, do you? You also don't want to be spending too much money. And with that 20% off and the free shipping code, you are definitely going to be saving. So pick up a platinum package, pick up some razor blades or some deodorants or some crop mops or anything like that. And if you do, go ahead and let us know what you got. And, big old thanks to Manscaped and for you for picking that up. So then let's go back to our little list that we've got going on here. With the let me go back to the screen share. Obviously like Harry Smith and all these other people, like if we would have thought that they would have been worthy at Mount Rushmore, we would have talked about them on our top 10 list. I can't imagine not having somebody on a top 10 and then being like, nope, they're Mount Rushmore territory, except for when it comes to the women's side that, there's just not enough space and a lot of other things like that. Out of these women that we're talking about, I'm perfectly fine with Kaylee Ray being that number 4. She destroyed that NXT UK Women's Championship title reign length. And that makes sense. Toni Storm, by the way, for anybody who would be like, oh, what about Toni Storm? She's not from the UK. So.
Yeah, that very strong Australian accent kind of gives it away.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some people that would be like, wait, what? She held that championship? No. And Rhea Ripley.
Rhea Ripley. Yeah.
Yep. Rhea Ripley, not from England, Wales, etc. So it's unfortunate that like a Tegan Knox couldn't have been in that kind of position. Because, man, that girl just got her career just completely ripped away from her. Such
and also, while we're at it, that's why we didn't have an extensive discussion about Walter or anything of the sort, because Austria is not in the UK.
Yep.
And it never will be. 1945.
I love the enthusiasm.
2 World Wars and 1 World Cup. Doodah.
Hey, we saved your ass in World War III. That's going to come back around, right? It's going to be one of those things. If you do have any suggestions for a tag team, we could put it out there. I don't think we necessarily need to do that, but is there anything on we don't have to do specifically WWE, but
if I had to just spitball it real quick, it'd be in no particular order: Mustache Mountain, Bulldogs,
Pretty Deadly might even be kind of in that.
I wasn't going to say Deadly. I was going to say the first tag team that won the belts. They're with Gacy now.
Crystal Gun Veterans.
Yes. Cal, any other names you would throw out there?
I'm trying to remember what their names were, but there was a tag team between... Actually, I need to remember it. I'm pretty sure this guy was British. It was a team between William Regal and Chris Adams.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Chris Adams is definitely British.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but other than that, there's not really... The other one that stands out to me would be... Pretty Deadly would be high up there because I really like Pretty Deadly. I think they're really good.
And they're 2-time champions.
They're fantastic.
Are they 2-time champions?
Yeah, they won the NXT UK titles and then the NXT titles.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh yeah. I forget about the NXT title run because it's kind of like just.
It just sort of randomly happened.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a placeholder instead of the Creed brothers.
Yeah. Are there any other UK tag teams that I'm familiar with?
I feel like we can't put like Carter and Smith or.
I mean, you could say Subwell Self Culture.
I was gonna say Southwell Subculture.
Gallus.
Just Gallus.
Yeah, Gallus were a big deal.
Um,
I wouldn't say you would say anything about. I mean, they had who was Neville teaming with when he was tag champion?
Oliver
British,
something, right?
Oliver
Gray, right?
Yes, there you go.
I was gonna say Oliver Ashby. I don't know what the fuck that name comes from. Is that an actor or something?
I mean, William Regal and Finlay were technically a tag team for a while.
I was thinking Finlay, Regal and Taylor.
I think
Oh no, British Invasion.
You know,
who was in British Invasion?
Aldous and Doug Williams.
Magnus and Doug Williams.
Oh, you know, I'd be potentially up for them possibly being in there. Because this isn't a WWE list, so you know we don't have to factor that in.
I mean, Nick Aldis was close on my list of like just overall women for.
You know, yeah.
He basically owns the NWA.
He really does.
I think that we probably at this point we have enough that we could do this tag team one. We all in agreement. Mustache Mountain would be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Bulldogs would definitely be in there.
British Bulldogs make perfect sense for that, obviously, for many other reasons.
I'd say Grizzled Young Vets and maybe British Invasion.
Yeah, I'd be down for those two.
I would go between those four. I wouldn't put South Wales. I wouldn't put the Regal Taylor Finlay one. Those four for those two spots. I'm totally fine with British Invasion going on there for what you guys are talking about. And then out of those other three,
it'd be Grizzled Vets for me because they're so good.
They did win the first tag titles.
Dallas held them forever, but you got to count the pandemic for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Grizzled Young Veterans. Why not? And then the sentimental number 5, Pretty Deadly.
Yeah,
I'm typing Pretty Dreadly.
I think Pretty Deadly could get up to that level, especially with whatever the dyad is supposed to be.
And then I actually kind of like the dyad thing. It's working better than I thought that it would. Still not a big fan, but I'll give him a little bit more credit.
I'll wait and see until Cameron Grimes potentially joins it.
Yeah, that's true. Shave him and get him smiling.
Maybe.
So then the actual Mount Rushmore itself, that we're, going with the full breakdown. I mean, technically speaking, we could be like, okay, let's put one of the women on there and let's do that. But if we're doing a separate women's list, we might as well just be like, all right, realistically, we're probably going to pick 4 of the women.
It's probably those 4 right there on the non-WWE list.
Actually, I mean, we probably should do it this way, just to be fair with the list. We should probably do... let's see, I'll just do it this way. WWE, Mount Rushmore, and then the non-WWE Mount Rushmore thing.
I just want to say, for anyone who is not subscribed to the Patreon, look at the amount of detail that you're getting for free.
Yeah.
$1 is more than sufficient.
I think $1 a month for doing what could be each separate podcast, technically speaking. You know what I mean? Keep that in mind, everybody.
$1,
And if you are interested in helping us out, look at that. You got it on your screen right now. Redbubble and TeePublic for the merchandise options. The Patreon and the join button on YouTube are all means for you to donate $1, including that little thanks button. That is basically the same thing as the super chats. But yeah, $5 a month for a little bit of Smark's Club. You get on the website list as somebody who's been helping out like that. But the $10 Darkcast tier, you get a whole extra bonus podcast per month. Some of those end up being some of the most fun ones too, where we just go off the rails. And then you got the Pick Your Poison tier. Could always just be like, hey, look, I want you guys to do a deeper dive into some of this. I want you to watch some of these old Nigel McGuinness matches, Tony, or something. Then that's what you get to request. But $1 a month for all this podcast content, I think that we're worth it. And if you think we are too, consider opening up those wallets and passing it our way. Really, Regal's definitely on this list. He's definitely on this list. That's pretty obvious. I don't think we're going to have any debates about that. And then it's kind of in this sort of range. Why am I not able to copy and paste? Why are you not giving me this option? There we go. This thing does not like me today. So, the non-WWE, you guys thinking it's pretty much that?
I would say so. What about you, Cal?
No, I think British Bulldog needs to be on both Mount Rushmores.
I'm totally down for
I
that.
am also. I think that's fair. Who did he bump?
Because Mount Rushmore's different. Mount Rushmore's different than
The top rope list. I would bump off Zack Sabre Jr. I don't know about you.
I'd bump him off as well.
I think that McIntyre deserves to be on there because he is the first champion.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And then Ospreay, I don't know. I mean, I'd be up for potentially having somebody else in this range that's like if we want to say like maybe Paige.
No, I'd say that.
I don't know if Paige
as
Rushmore.
I'd say Ospreay is I'd say Ospreay is the first British IWGP champion.
That's true. Maybe what do you guys think about that? That for the non-WWE, and then maybe if we talk about Paige, she could be on the WWE one.
What do you think, Cal?
I wouldn't be against it. The other one that I'd be probably aiming for in this one would actually be Pete Dunne.
He does have that UK title reign.
Yeah, that big long UK title reign. But then again, Paige is former Divas champion and the first NXT Women's champion, so she does have that going for her as well. So yeah, I could definitely see Paige being that one as well.
Well, we could always do the little asterisk thing. Technically speaking, Paige does have a spot on another Mount Rushmore, but if we were going to say, okay, that disqualifies her, we go Pete Dunne. If it doesn't disqualify her, I'd lean more towards Paige.
I'd go Paige then.
And Regal, Bulldog, and McIntyre, they cross over, so it's kind of...
I mean, again, not to throw another fly in the ointment, but there is an argument for Finlay as well, because his influence extends beyond just what he did in the ring.
You know what? Honestly, there's an argument that he's got a lot of influence on that women's Mount Rushmore. You know, like...
I don't think we could do that necessarily, though.
He did a lot for women's wrestling, is what I'm saying.
But yeah, I'd out of those three, I'd lean more towards Paige.
I think, gun to my head, I think I would go with those. And then I'd put that little asterisk about, like, look, technically speaking, if we say Paige is disqualified because she's on the women's list and we're separating that, just like we're not putting men on the women's list, then one of these two, I could be argued either way. I think that Finlay makes some sense. He is a former United States champion. And Dunne winning that UK title, it's a historic reign, but he's already been beaten for it with Walter. So, and they're kind of about 50-50 for me. But I'd lean more towards Paige. Look at all we accomplished.
I just want to... I'm not even... Callum talks about this a lot. But in this case, I'm really going to make the case for it. $1 a month is not a lot to ask. This is a lot of content, and we're not even done recording for the day. This is just what you're going to see in 2 weeks.
Right, yeah, we still got to do the hot tags for the 5th of August.
So think about that, Patreon, please.
So we got a Mount Rushmore for the WWE side, a Mount Rushmore for the non-WWE side, the women, the tag teams, and 2 different top rope lists. I don't think there's any other way for us to do that more than if we would have just been like, okay, it's all Europe, and then maybe we do that in the future. I don't know. Maybe that's a pick your poison thing. But
and then several names on every list go down because Becky Lynch has to be on Mount Rushmore.
Right, Becky Lynch. You got Sheamus in there. You start factoring in those. It's going to be a different story. But all this information is going to be eventually put up on the wiki for anybody that wants to just see that in a much more condensed and better fashion, as well as this information. I usually write down the full, this is what our lists were prior to that. So check that wiki page out down the line. Of course, it's not happening now that I'm doing this, but it might be it should be up by the time that you guys are listening to this episode, because I won't tell you that this is necessarily happening, and then I'll do it ahead of time, and then you'll go, oh, look at that. You already put it up. That is our main event for this week. I don't know, looking into the future, if we're doing other hot tags or not. It all depends on if Rob and Callum are able to record something separately. And
we probably will. We've done it in the past enough to...
I'm not volunteering them to do it, but if they are willing and able, then you guys will be hearing from them. And in the meantime, of course, we've got Clash at the Castle coming up soon, so stay tuned for all the coverage that goes along with that. We got pay-per-view point stuff with the predictions and the post-show. I'm sure by now we've got opinions about the card is working out, and you'll be seeing that stuff written up on different pages here and there, and we'll be talking about that next week or so, I think. I don't know exactly when the timeline is, but whatever it is. So keep that in mind. And of course, if you want to help us out and you are not subscribed, do that. Ring that little notification bell, hit the like button. That helps out quite a bit with the YouTube algorithm. You've got the option to do the same thing for, obviously you follow Facebook and Twitter and all that, but you can do that for fanboysanonymous.com. Help me out on that front. That is something that when you help out the one site, you help out the other one. It's kind of 50-50 deal. It's all just going back to me. So, the more time that I get to do that content, the better. And if you want to follow me at Tony Mango or go to amangotree.com, you'll see links to everything else. If you want to check out what these guys are up to, follow them. Rob?
I'll throw a little asterisk in there. It all goes back to him until more people start giving to the Patreon, because then it will start to trickle down to us.
Very much
again,
so.
put that in your brains, guys. If you want to support me directly, I'm at Dude Felice everywhere. Depending on when this goes up, it's either my birthday or around my birthday. So yay me! And just check out Fightful Select, and check out whatever Callum's got going on.
So not my birthday anytime soon, so you can wait. You can wait a little while for that. But there is obviously follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and check out the stuff that's on the Smark Moment website. Power Rankings is where you'll find my week-to-week written ramblings, as well as the Fantasy League, which you can track there, as well as at WWE fantasyleague.com. And yeah, just keep following all of that great stuff.
Alrighty, everyone. That's it for this main event, but we will see you next time. And for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.